Hello everybody. How are you today? A Knife's Tale here with a knife review, and this is a knife that I unboxed not that long ago, though a little bit longer than I intended to do the review. This is the... Okay. The original knife is a collaboration between Black Snow Customs and Lerman, which are two crazy high-end custom makers. They really know what they're doing. And this is their Sabotage production, done by, I believe, I would be very surprised to find out, anybody but Riot. Holy crap, that resounds. That detent is insane. The acoustics are crazy here. And the action's pretty darn crazy, too. These are still slightly available, but I didn't see much fanfare around them. I don't know if a lot of people knew that they were coming. I think only a couple dealers got them. I think they were very limited in nature, but these are fantastic. Let's just be honest. If you haven't seen one, you didn't know that this was a thing. I wouldn't be surprised because a lot of other channels didn't cover them, but these are pretty crazy. They're very dramatic and distinct, and you have to be okay with what you're looking at here, but they're great. What do you have? You have a titanium liners with a titanium... In this case, you have a titanium scale and white micarta scale and pivot collar. There are ones with full bronze titanium, full gray titanium, I think. No. Full bronze titanium. This. There is a variant that looks like this with the two-piece with like a stonewash titanium and carbon fiber. Black Dunes, really nice dog. And a full strip of carbon fiber on the outside. I think those are the primary variants. There is, or was, or might be one like super high-end Damasteel variant of this thing with, I think, also carbon fiber and titanium. But this one spoke to me with this white micarta. And the knife literally speaks to you. If that's even coming across the camera half decently, that thing's screams and pops it. Yeah, it's crazy. Big old recurve buoy Tonto. One thing I want to mention is I can't tell if it's called the Sandbar Sabotage or just the Sabotage. I've seen them listed as both, so I don't know. But big old buoy recurve Tonto trailing clip point thing. The blade steel is... I'm suddenly drawing a blank on the blade steel. Why am I suddenly drawing a blank on the blade steel? I'm pretty sure it's M390. If it's not, and it's S90V or something, I will... No, it's not. I remember now. That's why I was drawing a blank. It's RWL34. Or, I think they're like, again, there was a Damasteel variant. So, a bit unique on this blade steel. Not going to perform quite like M390, but it's going to be easier to sharpen, and custom makers like it a lot. And it's like the base, one of the core components of Damasteel. Damasteel pretty much functions like RWL34, so I'm going to have to go see what he's doing in a second. He keeps it... okay, hold on, I'll be right back. I'm back. Neighbors and things, dogs and things. He's a miniature dachshund. He likes to bark. Where was I? Ah, yes, RWL34 on the blade steel in a hand satin flat, and this one of the most beautiful stonewashes I think I've ever seen on a knife. It is almost mirror stonewash. It is crazy attractive. You can actually just see my shirt there. Yeah. It is gorgeous. I didn't know that the blade was going to be quite this attractive. It's really nice. And the pictures do not do it justice, right? This thing looks fantastic in person. I spent enough time gushing over it. Let's get into specs real fast and just talk about this knife a little bit more. after we're done. 3.5 inches of blade. 8 inches, almost on the dot overall, so that should be 4.5 inches of handle. Yes, it is. Pretty good ratios there. Comparisons. I'll start off with the full-size knife, the Conspirator. It was closer. And the small knife, the Civivi Elementum. Yeah, it's almost 1-for-1 with the Conspirator. It might actually have just a tiny bit less handle, somehow. The blade should be almost identical in length overall. Let's get this out of the way. Profile and such. Let's just take a quick look at that. Profile to the Conspirator is... Hold on. Pretty 1-for-1 there. It's not really like any major difference. Even the flipper tab, like, yeah, it feels a little thick down here, but it's still not super tall anywhere. Might even be a tiny bit slimmer than the Conspirator. One thing it is not slim, though, is this direction. It is a somewhat chunky knife. You've got 2 layers of pretty thick titanium that are contoured, or at least these outer ones are contoured. So it is a thicker knife. But not unreasonably so. Let's get the calipers and check this real fast. $560 thousandths, so a little over half an inch, which is a little bit thicker than the Conspirator, yes. Blade stock is probably shooting for around 137 to 140 thousandths. Crazy detent. Behind the edge back here, I'm going to do 2 spots on this one, is just disturbingly thin at... No, come on, I'm going up a little bit. No, I'm not going up a little bit. Like 13 thousandths? It's quite thin. It really drops down quite far, even though it doesn't look like it would necessarily would. Yeah, even up here, it's coming in 14-ish thousandths on the big belly up there. I don't think it's hollow ground. You know what? It has a slight light hollow grind. At least this one does. I don't know if they're supposed to, but it definitely has a light hollow grind. So it's thinner than you'd think, even though it doesn't have a lot of room to drop, which is nice, because it's thinnest here and it's got the least room there. So yeah, it's definitely got some small level of hollow grind going on there, whether they're supposed to or not. This one does. And you can kind of see it if you're looking down the blade, just a little bit of the curve. It's mostly straight, but it's just got a little bit. It's going to be real hard to video in this thing because the finish. Yeah. Oh, one last comparison for size. And while we're doing that, because I've remembered to do this, I might as well remember to say, like, comment, subscribe, anything you would like. I would greatly appreciate it. Almost 2 AA batteries worth of hand space and handle. So you're probably not going to have any trouble with that. I mean, I can get more than enough more than my hands on this thing. So like you can go back here even and still be pretty darn comfortable. And this is actually a surprisingly comfortable grip, just to note. Like it almost doesn't look like it would be comfortable, especially with these lower notches sticking out. Or this higher notch, despite the fact, because it's, not covered by inlay and it's not rounded as much and everything. When we get to ergos, yeah, I'll talk more about that, but it's very surprising. 4.41 ounces, so not an ounce an inch, but hardly surprising considering we are looking at a titanium frame lock that has not been milled on the inside. It does have Black Snow Customs and Lerman custom knives written on the inside on both sides. But hardly surprising that it's as heavy it is, but a little less than 4.5 ounces is not heavy, especially for a knife that is honestly full-sized. And is one of the only knives I think I've ever experienced that almost feels larger than it actually is. This thing it feels, I don't know if it's because of the way it arcs, the way it points, the extra space, or the extra edge that you get in the recurve and the belly. It feels bigger than it is. Which is fascinating. Well, to me it's fascinating, who knows. You have T8 hardware there. Underneath, I do not know. Let's take a quick gander, shall we? I have not taken this knife apart. I've carried this knife relatively little, even though I was trying to review the dang thing. I just haven't had cause to. I've been reviewing a couple knives, and it just, honestly, this one is so nice that I just kind of was saying, oh, you know what, I don't want to carry that. I know what I'm going to be doing today, and I don't want to carry that. Oh, that's the T8. T8 all around. You got 3 T8 screws underneath there. Very nice. I was very sure that was going to be T6 under there. So, absolutely no complaints from me. The one problem with titanium screws, right? You like to see it. The hardware is titanium, so yay. But especially on contoured surfaces, if you don't get them in just right, they like running away on you. As this one proves me to be a complete moron. Thank you for that. And perfect. All right. I believe we are done with our basic specs. So let's just take a quick talk about this thing. As I said, the whole thing is honestly the selling point here, right? The whole aesthetic and everything this thing is doing is pretty darn fantastic and pretty darn unique. And it is either for you or it is not for you. I was not 100% sure or convinced when I first saw it. And I actually passed up on the one place where I knew I could pre-order it. But when they dropped, I said, you know what, it's speaking to me, and then I'm going to give it a shot. And then I got it in hand, and, well, you can go back and watch the unboxing. Maybe I'll link it down below. Yeah, it's spectacular. It really is. This is potentially, even though it's the only reason I'm not sure it's going to, like, win Knife of the Year is because it's such a very unique design. But everything else, this is one of the best knives I've felt this year. It just is. The stonewash, which is even up on the swedge here, that is absolutely gorgeous and mirror. Beautiful hand satin. Absolutely wonderful action. Slow, almost just shy of just this slow glide drop shut. If I put a little bit of oil on the D10 ball or touched it with like a, Q-tip with some oil on it, it probably would be just this slow drop shut. It is so smooth, and the D10 is just... It reverbs. It genuinely reverbs. It is so loud. I've never had such a... And it's a pretty strong D10, but it doesn't even feel like the strongest D10 I've ever felt. Maybe it's because the flipper tab is just well designed with an angle, with some jimping, decently positioned in compared to the pivot. I don't know. But the noise this thing makes is fantastic, and it made it right out of the box. And the action has not changed. It's fantastic. It is perfectly centered. It's always hard to tell on the camera that I'm getting it right. Yeah, that looks perfectly centered to me. There is no play whatsoever. Still perfectly centered? Yeah. It's hard to tell, some things that can throw off the look of centering, the blade's perfectly centered, is if one side of the It's especially hard to get knives centered when they're hollow ground, but if one side of the bevel is slightly deeper or taller, lighting, especially when it comes down to a thin edge like this, if I have too much lighting from one side or the other, it can screw it up. But it looks perfectly centered to me. In person, I should say. And also, note, there is nothing on the blade. It is completely sterile. No marks whatsoever. That's the only thing that maybe makes me think maybe it wasn't Riot that did this thing, but it certainly feels like it was. But, yeah. There's no branding anywhere. And that is a beautiful thing. They put the names in there, and they deserve to have their name on this thing, but they kept it inside and subtle, and it's just so good. The handle, despite it looking, again, kind of weird with, part of the scale only covering part of the handle, and then you have this big, seemingly hard edge here, and you have stuff here. Once you actually get it in hand, it works so much better than you'd think it would. At least it did for me. It just nestles in just right. The crook here, actually, because you don't have scale there, maybe nestles in even better. And this clip, which looks like it might be getting too close to the spine or hug the spine a little too much, doesn't. It doesn't. It's just there. It's just a little bit of thickness. I mean, you kind of know it's there, but it also kind of disappears at most of the time. I suppose it probably wouldn't be as comfortable when push grip, considering the hard cant here, but it's not too bad. But if you go back here for the push grip, yeah, it's not bad. You kind of always lose out a little bit when you get a knife with hard curvature for, hammer grip, push grip stuff. But this is actually right here is quite comfortable. And the saber grip is just where it's at. Lanyard hole. The clip is a little bit tight, but it's not terrible. Continuous rise, it should work pretty well. I know it works pretty well. It's just a little tight coming out of the pocket on thicker clothes, is what I'm trying to say. And failing miserably. I also love this lipped extra detail on the pivot collar, that is micarta in this case. It's just really attractive. The slight spacing that's clearly left intentionally. I mean, that's very emblematic of the way Black Snow Customs does things. But his customs are, like $5,000. This was not $5,000. Big win right there. Action's great. Super. Not only is it drop shot, but it's stupidly smooth. Like oiled, greasy, glassy smooth. It's really good. And honestly, this finish on this stonewashed area kind of reminds me of the stonewash on a Rick Hinder. Not the. It's more mirror than Rick Hinder's, but it's got that slick feeling. That's kind of what it feels like and reminds me of. But in hand, this thing is great. In function, even though, I mean, yeah, it's going to be a little bit of a pain to sharpen, or a decent amount of pain to sharpen, the recurve's not as severe as you might think if you actually just look at it, so it probably won't be that big of a deal, but just knowing that you're going to have to get up on so many dramatic position and changes of angle for the edge might cause a little bit of trouble. I'm not looking forward to sharpening it, I'll be honest with you, and that's, again, one of the reasons why I'm not saying, like, yeah, this is possibly or probably one of the best knives of the year, just due to the shape and stuff. But function-wise, detent, ergos, execution, it's stellar. Heck, even the lock bar axis, you'd think, hey, they were definitely going for design here. They didn't give you any extra lock bar access, and yet they did. It's not only cut out on both sides, it sticks proud. So you can go almost perfectly from the side, maybe just a tiny bit canted in, but you're certainly not going out from the bottom. And it folds up into a nice, reasonable package. So the Lerman Black Snow Custom Sabotage, Sandbar Sabotage, whatever they want to call it. I don't know if there's very many of these things left around. I think I might be able to point you in the direction of one if anybody's interested. No, you know what? I think there actually are some I can link down below. Regular variants and stuff. I don't know if all of the variants are still around, but I think I can probably link it. I think there was a full titanium, now that I think about it. These are like 350, 375. I don't remember directly off the top of my head, but it's one or the other. I'm airing on 375, but it might be 350. And yeah, it's expensive. It's a premium knife. It is. This thing, better than a lot of recent knives that I've had come across, is justifying this price. This is bringing the extra. This is doing more. So, yeah, I really, this one does not, hurt at all for me. Pulling the trigger on it initially, but with the uncertainty, was not great feeling. But once I got it, it was like, oh, that is so good. So, yeah. One last snap for you. The Sandbar, maybe, Sabotage. This is a cool one. Oh, and I didn't even mention the stop pin, but the stop pin's attached to the blade, so you're completely good no matter what you're doing back here. The plunge grind doesn't quite hit the edge. It comes close, but again, you can cut in choil, you can do whatever you want. And if you do cut in a choil there, you're going to lose a little bit of the arc of the back end of the recurve, which will probably make it easier to sharpen. So, win-win, right? That's all. Thanks for watching. See you later.